Hi.
How are you today?
Let me tell you about Tantra.
Thank you. I would love to know about Tantra.
My name is Valentina Leo, and I am a tantric practitioner. I'm an artist before and foremost, and a mother, a fool, and of course, therefore, a tantric practitioner. Tantra is not for the faint at heart. It's for extreme artists. Anyway, no, cut all of this.
Okay.
So what is Tantra? There is a lot of idea, a lot of opinion, a lot of antagonism. This is real Tantra versus, oh, that's not real Tantra. So Tantra really, it's a series of texts that we can date from 1,000 years ago. But the text, we believe, because of course, even in academia, even historical, you know, we don't know for sure, and nothing we know for sure. So, but we believe that all these texts that got written about like 1,000 years ago in medieval time in India, there's been like this resurgent, like a Tantra Renaissance. And all this knowledge that until then was passed on by word of mouth and repetition and initiation, got finally written down into a collection of texts. So this is a very loose explanation. You know, I don't really want to go too much into the academia, but this is really what we've got, where Tantra comes from. And then in our contemporary time, some teachers start to share a lot more about this philosophy, because after the medieval time, there was this Tantra Renaissance that then went completely under cover again. It got dissolved by Muslim invasion throughout northern India, and we can call it religious contraction. And so it's been revived again in our modern days by contemporary guru like Osho, I think, is the one that really brought it into the most mainstream understanding and brought it to America. And then everything that comes to America gets commercialized and becomes a product that can sell. And so now we've got this new age Tantra. It's called they call it Neo-Tantra, New Age Tantra. So, you know, today when we speak about Tantra, it's like speaking about anything in a sense. You know, it's a bit wishy-washy because everybody has a personal understanding, and we speak from our personal understanding, but the people that we meet on the other side have their own projection and their own personal understanding. So often we get all lost in translation. And so I think a lot of the teaching of Tantra now revolve around sexuality, which is also an aspect of the tantric exploration, but is not the main focus of Tantra. And I think perhaps it will be better that we speak about those teachings as the teaching of sexuality, sexual enlightenment, sexual evolution, sexual revolution, that are also, of course, they're part of Tantra, but they're not exclusive to Tantra. Meaning, Tantra really wants to look at the nature of reality. Who am I, mainly? And then, what is this reality I live with? When I understand the nature of the reality, I understand who I am and how I fit in a sense, and how I can find my place, my purpose, and my freedom to be alive. So, Tantra often is referred as a philosophy of freedom, because when you understand reality, then you'll have much more freedom in how you choose to move in this world, who you want to be, your sense of identity, who really am I, and then how am I expressed. Because Tantra is inclusive, when we're looking at reality, we can't say, oh no, anger is not part of reality, murder is not part. Pedophilia is not part, sex is not part, then we excluding, then we cannot know reality. So the teaching of Tantra are inclusive. And meaning we're looking at everything. We're looking at your true nature, how you express yourself, and we meditate ourselves, meaning we go deeper into our expression. So if my expression in this moment, for example, is anger, but I am able to stay very present with anger and to be really present with what happened in my being and how my body moves, there is a possibility that even through anger, I'll have a mystical rapture. I have a moment of ecstatic understanding. I can break through my limited belief system that just tells me that I'm Valentina, and when I'm loved, I'm nice and everybody likes me, and then when I'm upset, people hate me. This is a very limited perception of my identity. And so through very strong emotional moment, like anger is one of them, if I'm fully present and real with it, that could be an entry point to find realization and to understand the immensity of who I really am. So in Tantra we include everything, therefore we include also sex. And so like I can find a moment of realization in anger, I can find it in sex, I can find it while I'm running, I can find it while I'm crying, I can find it while I'm loving. And they are all just activity of my persona, of this being. Swimming, talking to animals, all of it is inclusive. So I think that Tantra really wants to bring presence, full presence, the meditation of being alive, the meditation of being in this body that is a living organism. And now I interact with this. So we say that Tantra is the yoga of everything. And yoga is a place of being, is when I'm in the meditation of being in this world, of living, the meditation of living. So in a sense, everything then is tantric, but depends who's looking, how you live everything. Driving can be a tantric experience if you are the meditator of yourself driving. So, Tantra now it's a very loose terminology, and it can apply to everything. There can be the Tantra of business, and the Tantra of education. So, with sex, we can do the Tantra of sexuality, but Tantra is not so limited to sex. For example, breathing, it's a more important component than sex per se. So if we want to go by step into the tantric initiation to learn to be with your breath, it's pivotal, and then you take the breath into lovemaking or into any aspect. So if you cannot be flowing with your breath, if you're not intimate enough with your breathing, you can't really be intimate with another person. So breath has more relevance than penetration, for example. So what many people think tantric sex is hour and hour and hour of penetration, it's not always the case, Sometimes tantric sex is sitting and breathing with another for hour and hour and hour. And then that will bring me to an expanded sense of who I am and how I relate with another. And penetration is way down that line. We'll get there, and sometimes we become unnecessary even. And what we have in our contemporary world, what I've lived in my personal experience, and what I see more and more in the experience of others that I work with, is that sex, penetrative sex, often is the greatest avoidance of intimacy. So there is this tension of two being meeting, two universe, because we understand that I am a complete universe and the other also is. So we have universe colliding, and the tension and the energy is so strong when we get to this place of the meeting. And for many people, this is unbearable. We are not educated in how to hold this heightened space of tension. And so what we do this. We embrace and we penetrate each other. And often in penetration, I look this way and the other look that way. So we don't even have to look into each other's eyes. But before the embrace, We have to. And so Tantra just teaches the being to stay present and alerted and receptive in this moment of heightened tension, because those are the places where we really have entry point for more. And so this is more of tantric sex than this. This is avoidance oftentimes. Why then, when we speak about Tantra, everybody think about sex? Why did it become like this? And it all intertwined. Firstly, because I think it got to America and had to become a sellable product. That's what's happened. That's what the American dream does with everything. And so sex sells, if you haven't noticed. So I feel that to associate Tantra with sex become a sellable product. So and then it can be enticed more into the business of everything, as opposed to be the yoga of everything. You know, America become the business of everything. Everything is an exchange. It's a monetary exchange, and it's a power play. So who's the teacher? Who's the student? And there is that whole dynamic that become a commercial exchange. Then the question goes, why sex sells then? More than philosophy, for example, more than freedom, more than understanding reality. That doesn't really sell much. It's too profound. But sex sells because it's where we have the greatest attraction, is because in our Western society, that of course is way beyond American now, is all the Western world, we have the greatest wound around sex. Through our religious system, we have been very, very wounded around our sexuality. And so that's where we hold in the greatest pain. And there is the greatest suffering. And there is our inability to sit present with sexuality. And so because it's so contracted, we push down everything that is the wound of sex. And we know that what we suppress doesn't go away. It keeps wanting to push up in so many directions. It still bubbles. And so therefore, we have this tremendous attraction to sexuality, but often is the perverted side of sexuality, because it's been compressed and repressed. So it cannot just flower and say, hey, here I am, look at me. It goes down and it's pushed down, so it comes out as a gremlin, as a squashed monster that goes, oh, I'm still here, look at me, I'm there, you know. And there is, because it's part of ourself, we can never get rid of it. It will always come back to us. And so a lot of what it becomes now in our contemporary world, that we are attracted to the distorted perception of what sexuality really is. I'm really generalizing here, you know, of course, not everybody, but this is the majority. That's why the biggest industry is pornography. You know, and then there is sex slavery coming shortly after, and then sexual abuse to children. I mean, it's immense. So it's a big wound. We really are forced to look at it. So in a sense, you know, it's beautiful that westernized expression of Tantra and the contemporary look of Tantra brought a lot of attention around sexuality. In a sense, it's great, because that's the first step you have to go through. If you want to understand reality and the reality of self, you need to start to embrace all the part of yourself. And so if you're not embracing your sexuality, you can't meditate. You can't enter the sexual meditation of Tantra. It's so interesting, actually. If you haven't overcome your sexual desire, attraction, repulsion, judgment, disgust, addiction around sexuality, you cannot enter the sexual meditation of Tantra. So it's good that sometimes a lot of tantric work deal with sexuality first, and then the person it's ready to move to the next stage. Sometimes I personally would like it that we would call this work sexual empowerment, sexual freedom, sexual education, because then we are really honest in what we're looking at. And again, we don't avoid the word sex. Because sometimes with Tantra, there is a very gray area of what Tantra is, because I feel a lot of people avoid meeting sex for what it is, and they want to do a little bit of a bypass and call it spiritual sex, and therefore Tantra. You know? So Tantra is this spiritualized expression of sex, which it is if you've gone through the nitty-gritty, the smelly, the dirty, the sticky part of sex. So we can't avoid that. We have to really embrace it in the fullness. And I think some people are not interested in reality, in the nature of reality, but could very well do with some sexual empowerment and with some overcoming sexual trauma. And so sometimes I would like to see this split be more clear, because the liberation of sexuality can really improve humanity at large, can improve the way we live with each other, can improve our society, and doesn't necessarily has to turn everybody into seekers of truth, you know? And so there are two separate things that, of course, are part of each other. But sometimes I think when sexuality, the camouflage behind the curtains of Tantra, create a lot of confusion about what Tantra really is, and distort the true message of Tantra, that is interested in your full liberation, the liberation of your beingness. And the work that we could do in sexuality makes it scary for some people, you know, because they see Tantra, they're confused, they don't know what it's about, and they imagine. And, you know, the imagination sometimes produces all your fear, only your fear. And so it keeps people away from the work, actually. And if they would call it what it is, you know, we're doing an exploration and an overcoming of sexual wounding, I think a lot more people will be attracted to this work. So I am particularly interested in Kashmir shaivism, in this wave of Tantra that moved in northern Tantra, that is very close to Sufism, actually, and the poetry of Rumi, that is the poetry of the heart. And in this context, when we speak about sexuality, actually, it becomes really, really, really expansive. So when I speak about sex, for example, I speak about an experience of my body completely available and open to receive the penetration of existence. So it's very similar when the spaces of the body goes when I'm penetrated by a lover, but the lover, the identity of the lover I'm surrendering to becomes greater than just an embodiment. One person, that person, becomes the creator, becomes the cosmos, becomes Mother Nature. And here you've got whatever turns you on, you name it, you know, you love the ocean, there it is. That's your erotic experience with nature. And every surfer understands this. And it is like this, you know, every surfer, when you go into the wave, they need to be very alert, they need to listen, they need to observe the movement of the waves, the movement of the tides. They know the moment they need to enter the wave. And if it's a moment before or a moment after, you know what happened? They go under. They tossed and turned and killed and broken. And nature will take them under. And then when they come up and they almost die, they gasp for breath and they're ready for the next one. So this you can translate this. If this man would approach lovemaking with a woman in the same way, it's this become a cosmic love affair, you know. And you know, men sometimes don't take the time to really listen and wait for the feminine, for their woman to be ready to receive them. And they enter them a little bit too soon or a little bit too late. They get really upset. And then they become a nightmare to be with, and every man knows this too. How turbulent can become a woman that has not been fucked properly. So, you know, it's very similar. I love to use the language of sexual interplay to understand reality at large. In Kashmir Tantrism, we say that we receive the teaching, the gnosis of the philosophy of Tantra through the kiss, you know, the breath. The breath is the kiss of the divine. And what does it mean? It means that every time I breathe, if I'm present enough, if I'm quiet enough, if I connect to this breath like I'm connecting to a lover, in this moment, I can know everything. That nature, actually, that life loves me. Life is there for my upliftment. Life is with me. And we live in the world where we are so used to think that life is against me. So we have life insurance, first example, you know, that there is a risk in life, that there is always someone out there to get me, that to become successful, I need to push someone down in business, and the quicker they go down, quicker I go up, and then I win. So there is always the struggle of living, the struggle to be successful, the struggle to be loved. We do the same things. You know, I grew up as a woman with the elder woman telling me that when there is a pretty man, get that one and get all those bitches out of his sight so that I can get him, as if there is scarcity of beautiful men in this planet. That is the message the grandmother are giving to me. And so if I decided that there is scarcity of beautiful men and I'm in competition with every woman around me, life is really hard. Instead, Tantra teaches me there is plenty of everything. There is abundance. First, with love, there is abundance of love. And the more I love, the more there is love. So instead of being in competition with everybody, I can enter a sisterhood. And then we culture more love. I can enter the brotherhood of men. There are so many beautiful men on this planet. If we only have eyes to see beauty and to see abundance and to choose this as what life has to offer me, then there is abundance of time. There is abundance of resources. There is abundance of teachers. Breath, it's my first teacher. It's always available for me. So this is how we call the teaching of Tantra become a love affair with existence. It doesn't mean I have sex with everybody I meet. But still means I feel I'm very fulfilled. My sexual being is constantly fulfilled because it's in constant open and exchange with everything that meets me. So sometimes are human being that meets me, sometimes is nature, sometimes are thoughts. And the way I approach all this meeting depict the way I harvest this meeting. And we know this, when you make love with someone, the more you're vulnerable, the more you are available, the greater intimacy you will have. And the deeper your relationship with this person will be. It always, the more of you give. But when we are wanting that everything must come from outer, money must come, fortune must come, love must come from outside, then we always in the struggle. Then we see this relationship where they must do this, that which I need. And my first question when my client tells me this is like, well, do you do that for yourself? No, they must do it for me. Why? When you do it for yourself, you start seeing that the other are more willing to come to that meeting with you because you open and you are in a space of expansive joy and you are at peace, you are fulfilled. You become very attractive, actually. You become a person people want to be with. But when we always feel we need to take this from others, from the future, you know, from the teachers, from the school, the degree is given to you by the university. Actually, the degree it's an expression of your learning. You give yourself a degree, you know. The school just really put the signature there. When we understand this, also there will be less demanding. You know, everybody must give you something. And then life is a struggle. There is a sense that is this entitlement. Instead of saying, wow, beautiful, there is a road outside there. You know, although I pay tax, I don't expect that everything must be done for me, you know. I can still say, wow, beautiful that someone built a road outside my door. It's very useful. My friend can come and meet me. It's fantastic, you know. And so there is already in that moment, there is a sense of appreciation. That's what we call the tantric opening. When I'm in appreciation and I'm in joy, you know, I always say this. Like in the morning, you look at someone that had a good shag in the night. They look so relaxed. They look so beautiful. They radiate. They notice the birds singing. You get down to your car. There is a fine there. It's like, whatever. You get in the car. You don't mind the little triviality of life because internally you've been fulfilled. And so the girls can stop worrying about their hairstyle. You know, they always have this really wild hairstyle, freshly shagged. It's so beautiful. The eyes are soft, the skin is soft. And so off we go onto this beautiful day. So wouldn't it be beautiful that every day of my life are freshly shagged day? So this is a choice we can make. Otherwise you go, there is a fine on your car and there's a reason to bring up my anger, my disappointment, and it's fuck it, and it's someone's fault, it's the fault of that one in front, it's the fault of this other one, I was late, there's never enough time, I couldn't park there, it's the system, there isn't enough parking spaces. You know, we can go on and on and on and start blaming everybody for everything. So Tantra also wants you to start to become really aware that you are responsible for the majority of your internal movement. And what you're going to do with that, it's your responsibility. You have a choice. So, you know, here comes the question. Someone is born in a very abusive household. Is it their responsibility? Not really. You know, they were born into this world and there was some interference. Education is our first great interference, and then is the belief system of our parents. And if you are born by wounded parents, so they will transmit the wound to us and we'll become wounded in aspect of our living. And in Tantrism, we understand that this wounding, it's not who you are. It's an interference. It's a space of confusion. And so when we see it like this, it allows another opening. And there is always the possibility that this cloud of confusion clear. It's the confusion about your identity, who you really are. And so that possibility that is always there, it's a beautiful potential. You know, like medicine will tell you, oh, you've got a cancer, you're going to die in 6 months. And Tantra say, perhaps. Maybe you clear that confusion, perhaps you live forever. In fact, you are eternal, actually. So this it goes with all sexual wounding as well. You know, there was an interference in education, but that's not who you are. You're not a broken person. You are an unlimited being. You are as the same as your creation, as your creator, which is perfection, which is harmony, which is a constant flow of love. This is not romantic love. Love, we understand, is a space of harmony, overflowing, of balance. You can call it the Tao, that constant balance of life. And so all these that appear to be construction, obstruction, pain in life are really just the product of wrong perception. And so Tantra offered this through a lot of text, philosophy, and practices. When you bring them all together, there are a constant opening and a moment of awakening. And there can be aha moment where we say, aha, I am more than that I believe to be. Another big breath.
It's great. That's really good. Sure. What more does anyone actually ever need to know?
So, in time, also I think we call Tantra the way of the lover, because one way that the tantric texts were expressed, that the tantric gnosis, the knowledge, was expressed to us, was in a form of a conversation between two lovers. And Shiva and Shakti, those are the cosmic lovers. And so a lot of the tantric texts, the majority in fact, they are always expressed in this form, where the student, which is the feminine Shakti, asks the teacher, Shiva, the ultimate creator, what is reality about? And so she pretends to come from our point of view, like I know nothing, I'm just this expression of reality, I feel so much, I feel the turmoil of being alive. So dear master, dear lover, how can I understand more? Please tell me something. And so Shiva moved forth to answer all her questions in a very compassionate way. So why are they lovers? They're lovers for what I just said before, because when she asks him as a lover, she's really open to him. If you had this experience of being really intimate with a lover, you make love, you meet, you have dinner, you do whatever, then you have sex the whole night. Then the conversation that happens after, it's very sweet. It's soft, it's gentle. We're disheveled, we are in bed. We are not fully clothed, separated, talking. Then is our mind talking all the time. After lovemaking, the bodies are talking. There's a different intelligence. There's the intelligence of the body. And so the tantric text wants to invite us people to start to relate to life with this intelligence. It's the intelligence of body-mind. Not two, one. So the tip of my toes has great intelligence, especially when they tickled. And when they sucked. Because my body softened, the heart opened, I am perceptive to reality. And then this heart knowing then inform my mind. Then we call this true wisdom. That is true intelligence. Then we can make constructive choices in our life. And so Shakti is the Shiva's lover and she's the student. So when you are in the space of being the lover, you just listen, you just receive. You listen what the teacher has to say, although you don't understand immediately everything perhaps, but you are into this mystical rapture and you are in love, like this. That's the best student. The worst student is when someone comes thinking they know everything and they ask you question. And you can't give them answer because their cup is so full, their mind is so full, they will question everything you give them. There's no space for anything. So the perfect way will be that I could make love to that student first and then I answer their question. Then there is more chances they'll hear something new. Because in truth, when the student comes to the teacher, they want to know something more. They want to know what they don't know yet. But they're coming with a full mind. And then you can't give them anything. So in a way, this is the true education of love. And the learning become the process of loving, to stay open to more. And then you can be penetrated by the teaching. That's what happened with Shiva and Shakti. She allows Shiva to penetrate her with what she doesn't know yet. And so therefore, this is the true essence of lovemaking. You know, I really believe that lovemaking is here so that we get to know more of who we are. Not through our thinking mind, but through the wisdom of the body meeting, one universe, one full cosmos, meeting another cosmos, merging. Wow, we can create a new galaxy. And then it's like wonderment, the wonderment of the knowing. Oh, wow. Wow, I had no idea that I could, my mind could even expand so much that I could understand this. But you cannot expand the mind in the dry space of the mind. You need some moisturizing. That's why sex is wet. You need to be moist. You need to be lubricated. You need to be flowing like water. You need to be supple, like the trees in the wind. This is why Tantra is so poetic. It's poetic because it's giving us symbols to try to understand the depth of reality. The mind cannot understand it. You have people that come really close to Tantra, that has a realization, but their body, their nervous system is not being prepared for so much knowing, and they fry. They go mad. You know, madness and realization in Tantrism, they go really, really close, you know? And then they struggle to relate with reality as is. Which is a pity, because if there could be integration, then they could have a really expansive life filled with possibility. Our teenage generation are depressed. No one teaches them how to make love, but we fill their mind with story and idea. But we tell them that pleasure, it's sinful. Now they're going mad, they're depressed. We've got the highest level of suicide on teenagers. So when our teenager, which is the flowering, the evolution, they want to kill themselves, this says everything about our society, where we are now. It says a lot about it. It's frightening, actually. What tells me is that we're going really wrong. Then it's worth to try anything else. Anything, throw me something, you know. Tantra is another possibility. This is why this time are really ripe for Tantra, because we can see where the world is going, and it's bringing a lot of pain and suffering. And what do we want to do with that? It's the same way to meditate anger and pain and sorrow. It forces us to make a decision. So the option of Tantra, it says, okay, why don't we go with pleasure? Let's try the pleasure of learning. Learning as an act of love. Working as an act of love. Choose your job as an act of pleasure. What pleasure your body? What makes you go like this? Instead of, I think this is a really good idea. You see, politician talks a lot about security and protection of our living, you know? And look at their body. This is a contracted body. And then the body of a lover, it's supple like the trees. We find nourishment in trees. People go for walk to find inner nourishment. So it means we're looking for lovemaking in nature. So if we take that as the first step of this new learning, nature has a tremendous potential for healing and nourishment. Why? Because it makes love to us, if we just let it. Oh, so lovemaking, it's okay. It doesn't have to imply always the friction movement of another body. Also, when we look at how we make love, let's look at porn. It's slapping, it's violent, it's friction. In Tantric lovemaking, we understand that it's by opening and relaxing that we can create a real meeting. There is no depth in pornography. Out of pornography, there is only more abuse. So we are hiding in sex. We are so scared, and we bring out the fear that we have of ourselves and the other, the fear we have of opening, the fear we have of our vulnerability, and we attack. And sometimes when we see sex, you see that two people, it's violent, you know? It looks like they're beating each other up. And then you look at when you are conscious of this, and then as a tantrika, you encounter lovemaking. And then there is this vulnerability. So my movement is back inside of myself, and there is an opening. And with this I come to meet you. And the other person does the same. So we allowing our vulnerable spaces to meet. And we go slowly, we go gentle. And if you look at tantrikas making love, it's often pretty boring actually. It looks like nothing happened. There is a lot of stillness for hours. Nothing happened. There's not much to look at, you know. That's why children, it's very safe for children to look at tantric lovemaking, because they're gonna look and they get bored. Okay, nothing is happening. Okay, I'm gonna go and do something else where you two breathe. So boring, look in each other's eyes, you know. And so this is how this intelligence was passed to us with the symbol of two people making love. You know, and for me this is so beautiful because this bypasses the mind and is accessible to everybody. When you look at the tantras, they draw from teaching that no one claims. No one claimed that teaching. To me this is so beautiful because there is no ego. No one is making any money. No one gave us this teaching to convince you of anything. It's there. You want to take it, take it. You're not interested, it's okay. When you're ready, it's there. So they choose this symbol of man and woman coming together to help us understand the immensity of reality. And when a man and a woman come together, we make baby. It's the biggest gift we have, is the biggest interaction that we contribute to existence. And so there you got it, it's all there, it's so simple in the symbology. Obviously it's sacred, we don't even have to say this. But we come from this background where sacred and profane got split. That's Catholicism, Christianity. It created the split of mind, holy, sacred, God, up, devil, down, sex, sin, bang. Everybody walks around cut here in a half. And here is exactly where there is this diaphragm we have, which is this beautiful bellow that join up and down, my breath. So again, I love the symbology of how the body operates to understand reality. When we come back to our breathing organism and we relax the breath, we connect sex and heart. You know, my friend always beautifully say, can you fuck with your heart and love with your genital? Because that's where the alchemy will happen and you change your sense of identity. And then your genital become the purest thing you have. And look, it's from the genital that we have babies. And, you know, all religions are so big on marriage, for example. They want you to marry. And when you marry, the marriage get sanctified by the number of children you have. Isn't it so? Even in Christian religions, you can cancel a marriage if it hasn't been consumed. So, somewhere also in their doctrine, there is a relevance in the consummation of lovemaking, the act of lovemaking that declare the marriage, actually. So, but we already living this split. Marriage is sacred. Everybody must marry. Every good girl must marry. But sex is sinful. But you're supposed to have children. So you go and explain this young girl how she must be holy, definitely marry, definitely have children, but definitely not enjoy sex. So there you have a schizophrenic society. Completely schizoid, completely split. And when we are operating from this deep split, we produce wounding because we are wounded. We cut. You cut someone in their tummy, see what happens. We bleed to death with a lot of suffering. Symbology again, you know. We do harakiri. Cut in your here. So Tantra often this philosophy that will want to merge everything. Everything is one, everything is beautiful. Even your perversion, your pervert desire, when you go and look at it in the depth of it, it's beautiful, it's devotional, it's sacred. So, for example, the majority of men I work with have this tremendous split that they love women so much and they think they shouldn't. They think they shouldn't have an erection every time they see a beautiful woman because that is rude, that is offensive. But that is their natural movement. And when you look at that in tantric term, it's so beautiful. That's what should be. Women are beautiful. Women are the expression of love. In Tantra, we call the body of woman the body of love. We are the expression of this loving that constantly create. And we create babies. We make babies. And so men can only but surrender to our beauty. They are completely charmed and mesmerized by women. And that is their natural movement. That is beautiful. You know, women should be offended when a man doesn't have an erection in their presence, actually. It's like, can't you see me? I'm exuding love. I'm the most sacred things that can happen in this moment. My expression. But, of course, women also, we victim of the split. So the woman goes, oh, disgusting, you're having an erection. What is this? Ah, I am not that. That what? After this woman has spent millions on their boobs, on their lips, on their face, to be sexually attractive. Look how twisted we are. So the women do this. Okay, maybe they didn't do the surgery, but still we do the lipstick, we do the eyes. Just go and look in any department store how big is the department of cosmetic. And then you understand how much time women spend taking care of their beauty to be attractive. They might tell you, oh, but I want to feel attracted for myself. That's great. Still, we invest a lot of time in wanting to feel good and be attractive. That is absolutely beautiful. But this will create a reaction outside of us, which is adoration. You know, they fall in love. Beautiful. They get aroused. The arousal. So then this woman cannot then turn back against the reaction that creates. Because this is then becomes the manipulation of sexual energy. So that's what happened, that then the men that can only be a victim of these beautiful women with big boobs and rich lips walking around, of course they want to put their body inside their body. This is so beautiful, I want to enter, like you're looking at the ocean, you want to go for a swim, you want to enter this beautiful water. You're seeing a flower opening, you want to smell it, you want to put it in your house. No, we do this all the time. But we making this man so guilty because they want to enter beauty. So in the tantric understanding, this is pure devotion. These men are following a natural movement of existence. Nature created this to be like that, for them to be wanting to enter women, so that life continues, so that I can enter the body of love and surrender in the wonderment of existence also, to penetrate the heart of woman and become with her this opening flower. This is the natural movement. To be wanting to penetrate woman is a natural movement for men. We must stop making that evil. That's not the source of evil. The source of evil that we tell them that this is not how it should be. And every little boy would know different. because they start to playing with their genital and they start having erection since they're baby. That's the natural movement of the body. That's the true essence. And then we come and tell them, no, but that's not okay. That's not how it should be. And then we tell them we know better than the Creator. My little mind, confined here, knows more than creation itself, that created also your desire for woman. It's crazy. And then we go and tell them that they must worship the divine, though, because that's ultimate perfection. So God is the one that knows everything and is perfect. So in that perfection, could God create anything that is not perfect? It's impossible. You know, that is the intelligence of Tantra for me. It calls for our natural intelligence. You know, if God is perfect, everything that God creates ought to be perfect. My desire, my lust. You know, lust is only desire being repressed. But if you know that you can have that, you know, that you don't need to also, like if a man has this tremendous desire for woman and can express it in a healthy way, it will always be received. You know, what is a healthy way, you know, is to be honest. Is to be honest about themselves and their movement and be in devotion to that which we cannot understand. So the Creator is perfection. He creates us as His image. That's what Christianity tells us. So therefore I'm perfect. My mind only tells me I am imperfect and I'm wrong. But if I drop the mind into the body and I really pay attention to the movement of the body, I will always have more insight into my perfection. And so sexual desire is perfect. The desire for women to be attractive is beautiful. But if women understand that love, it's inside of us, is not something you're going to go and take, we can stop fixing our body from the outside, but culture our pleasure from the inside, then everybody is beautiful. We don't need to fix anything. We don't need to make this more big. Maybe we need to suck more cocks, actually. And stop injecting the lips, because when I see women walking around like this, can I blame the man that wants to put his cock in that mouth? I can't. I also want to put my finger there, you know? You know, what do we want to do with this? What does it look like? It looks like an engorged yoni. Yeah, a genital, female genital, with a lot of blood rushing that is ready for penetration. But then you tell this to a woman that is done Botox, she'll punch me. She doesn't want to see that. Because the system wants to keep you like this, that we don't see reality, because the reality is that we could make love all the time. And if we make love all the time, we're so relaxed, we don't go to work, we don't go to war, you know, we don't buy life insurance. Someone is going to stop making a lot of money out of us. A lot of money. No one will buy makeup, and every man can tell you, if women would listen to men a little bit more, every man tells me, when I ask them, there's nothing more beautiful than a woman when she just wakes up. And we look like this. No makeup, no base, disheveled. They think we look beautiful. But we don't listen to them. We want to listen to our mind that is so judgmental, and so we're going to have to change the color of the hair, we're going to change the color of our skin, we're going to change the shape of our body to better ourselves. And then when we go into devotion, because Tantra also is a devotional practice that surrender to the perfection. So it becomes, okay, maybe I cannot see my perfection yet, but I must know that I'm perfect. And the more I rest into that, the more I take this as my first mantra. I am perfect. I am divine. Okay, I've got a big ass. How can I make that work for me? Maybe I've got a big ass because there is more for me to love. When people are fat, women tell me, I'm so fat. Beautiful. There is more of you to love. There is more of your internal passion that can be seen. There is more of your soft skin that I can rest into. You know, women have baby this day, they get the baby popped out of their tummy, and at the same time they do a tummy tuck because you're under surgery. So cut all that skin out. And then you see this skinny leg, tight like stick, with this baby, and the baby are hanging off them. And I think everything is perfect. You know, there is a soft tummy here. You just had a baby. And rest the baby in the soft tummy. This tummy, these big boobs and the big tummy are there to welcome this baby into a reality that engulfs them, that is soft. It's like a pillow. Like, welcome to this world. Look, I made soft pillow and blanket for you so you can come and rest. Instead, what we do? Welcome to this world. There's only hard surfaces for you because we all have to have hard muscles, because we all women have to look like men. You know? And the majority of the time we think, you know, this is sexuality. All of this, it's sex. Because a lot of men just want to find that softness into which they can rest. And that's what the vagina is soft tissues that open for them and receive them. They just want to be received, you know. And what happened with them, they say, I am so enchanted by the mystery of reality, by the wonderment of reality. Look, I become so erect. We started, you know, speaking why Tantra is associated with sex, perhaps. That was our beginning. So I just spoke about a lot of stuff to show that everything is associated to sex. Life is sex. Living is a sexual experience. Can be great sex or bad sex, again, you know. Good life, bad life. So Tantra also wants to inquire to the nature of reality. Who am I really? And then of course we go back to where do I come from? And we go in stages. So before I was divine, I am embodied. And where the beginning of embodiment come? Oh, sex. There you go. A sperm meeting an egg, and sexual fluid melting, and creating new life. So either that we like it or we don't like it, we are a product of sex. My body is a product of an act of lovemaking. So if I am to be sacred, Christianity condemns suicide, because God's give you life, you can't take it away. So then we can say, God give me life through sex. But we omit that part. Why? So again, Tantra include, you can't omit that. So if you say that my life is sacred, you have to say that sex is sacred, because without sex there is no life. So I'm really looking at this schizophrenia of a lot of philosophy that created our contemporary split society, and I find a lot of beautiful nourishment with Tantra. That's why I love Tantra. It's restful. It's a place of rest. It's a place where I can go and really rest with all of me. And I know that all is welcome, and all is loved, and all is divine. It's only because there is a lot of me I still cannot understand, and I judge. And in Tantra, I can also find compassion for that part of me that judges me. That part of me that is abusive toward myself. Tantra say that's also, it's okay if you can be aware that you are also abusing yourself, that you are also the abuser out there. Immediately compassion come out of that. So that's beautiful. I can embrace the abuser and find a place of inclusiveness and compassion. So where else there is to go? I'm so glad that someone came and gave us this manual, how to be human. You know, here is the Tantras. And we are all different, and someone resonates with breathing technique, good. Someone will resonate with celibacy, someone will resonate for solitude, someone can resonate with big social life, with marriage and many children. Great. Everybody their own. There is no discrimination whatsoever, because in Tantra we understand that it's all about my perception of reality. The moment I expand my mind, my perception of the same event can change, and therefore the response of my system will change, because the chemicals that are exuded by thoughts are different, and then my experience of this moment change. And then we choose, do you want to live in contraction or you want to live in expansion? Lovemaking often is a space of expansions. Rape is contraction. Rape is imposed lovemaking. And then often I think we're raping our children when we force them to study, when they're not ready. It's like having sex with a woman when she's not ready, when she hasn't asked you for. And we force the knowledge on them. It's like forcing food to someone that is full. It's an abuse. It's an abuse of human right. But society at large doesn't see it that way. So that's why Tantra is subversive. That's why Tantra went underground. And thank God it did, because it's still alive today. It's beautiful. So that's why Tantra is still covered with mystery and secrecy. And this strange thing they do. I take the responsibility that life has risk, but I choose to believe that life is potentially safe. And so it's safe to be sexual. And we live in the world that tells you life is unsafe, and so it's very unsafe to be sexual, and we need to protect ourselves from sexuality, and hence the greatest wound. You can't protect yourself from what is given you life. Any poet, any artist will choose the way of the heart. So we choose in practices that awaken the lover inside of me. And Rumi, if whoever listened to this have never explored Rumi, I highly recommend go read Rumi poetry, because he speaks about God as his lover, and you can relate to that. So we can start relating to breath as the kiss of my beloved. So when I kiss a lover, the first thing I do, I really relax my face. I relax my lips, I relax my jaw, I relax the back of my throat. When we French kissing with tongue. And you know when you're kissing someone that is really stiff, the tongue is really rigid. But the juicy kiss is when we relax into each other's mouth and we allow this kiss to inform this moment. My whole body suddenly will melt and relax and become available to this moment. So when we approach breathing in the same way, it's already an expansion to the whole body. No, it's not this default breath, or when the mind is busy, you watch, we're always short of breath. When we relax the breath, especially the root of the tongue here, so the tongue softens. When we relax here, the mind relaxes. Immediately, the mind doesn't know where to go. It stops the mind. So my first suggestion is to consider the breath, the kiss of the divine. You know, that life is kissing you. And that becomes a full body experience. It's not just experience of my mouth, but it's an experience of my legs. My genital will relax immediately. My jaws are connected to the hip bones here and there. So when I relax the jaw, I relax my hips immediately. And then I relax my genitals. You know, and we release in contraction here, we release the contraction there. The throat and the genital are really connected. And that's why we speak about love here, or we make love. It's a conversation. Shiva and Shakti have a conversation while they're loving each other, while they are in penetration. They separate themselves for the pleasure of conversation, which is also the pleasure of lovemaking. So life, it's a conversation with God, actually. How do you want to have that conversation again, you know? So softening the breath, thinking about the kiss, and then allowing, becoming very aware of the diaphragm. The diaphragm is this bellow that connects sex and heart. So when I deeply breathe, I bring the connection of my eroticism with my romanticism, which in our contemporary world we split. Romance is related to sacredness, which often it's the root for pain. You know, we hurt each other in the name of love so much, so much. And I don't want to go into the social detail, but go look at merry marriage, where people are really suffering. We hurt a lot in the name of love, and yet romanticism still, we elevate romanticism. And sometimes we have the best, most beautiful sexual experience with stranger, but we can't see, we can't say it, we don't say it, it's secret. It's down there, it's sinful, because there is no romance attached to that sexual experience, and yet could be something I'll never forget. And yet, I didn't speak with this person, but gosh, my universe got informed and shaken. Tip for breathing is connect your sex and your heart in your breath. The tantric teaching, it's written in the text, they were passed on to from master to student, mouth to mouth. It is written like that, so it's not a mistake in translation. It's not mouth to ear, it's mouth to mouth. So what does that mean? Now it's open for interpretation. So I like to really rest in this idea that when we're breathing in the same place, your nervous system informs my nervous system and vice versa. And so when I speak the truth and you receive it with your mouth open, with your breath, like the next breath, your body will understand reality as an experience, not as a dry word, but as an experience. The mouth has to open like a kiss in the technique. It needs to soften like receiving the kiss. And therefore, not only the mouth, but the whole body start opening. And also, when I give my knowledge from my mouth to your ears, the ears go straight into the brain. So you just take in dry knowledge and you try to fill up this machine. When you take in the knowledge through your mouth and you open the mouth, you're breathing straight into the heart. You can go ahead and do this straight into the heart or straight into the lungs, and these are our true organs that vibrate our existence. So there is an immediacy that honor the body, and then the body, the heart and the lung and this living organism will inform the brain. So that's the power of the transmission to breath. And also, when you breathe, I want you to think that your mouth open and every single cell in your body also open. That every single cell in your body, on your skin, outwardly and inwardly, open to receive oxygen. So every cell has a mouth, and every single cell in your body is kissing reality. That's a very poetic way to start living life. And the same thing when you breathe through your nostril. When we just take an inhale, it's a very dynamic action. You know, when you do sport, when we are instructing how to breathe, it's a very masculine way to breathe. We not pay attention to what really happened. We are already projected onto where we're going, you know, with the breath. The breath needs to oxygenate the body, but we're missing this moment where also the nose is kissing the space. So if now I'm telling you, instead of inhale, exhale, I say, smell this moment. Just smell this moment. Just smell it. In this moment, when I smell this moment, my nostril expand beyond this ability, this capacity. Every little cell in my nostril open and wants to receive. This is an action of lovemaking. When I'm opening my body, I want my lover to come inside, but I'm always, there is a movement to meet my lover and taking him inside. You know, the heart wants to meet his heart and taking him inside. So it's the same with the nostril. When I smell this moment, I'm becoming very alert to space and very receptive to all the little nuances. So now I'm taking so much more information in the air in this moment, information about you, if I'm smelling you. And that informs how I interact with this moment. This makes me available, fully available to this moment. To myself, this moment, you in the moment, the trees, the land, the sense of nature. And this is just a very simple tip, to be constantly present. You know, kiss this moment, smell this moment. And then you're really receiving the transmission of reality. Because in reality, I mean, we can say it is so simple. We're made of breath, we're made of emptiness. You know, our cells are empty. Every atom in our body is empty. We are made of emptiness. And so space, air, is empty. You can't grasp it, you can't cling on it, you can't block it, you can't box it. And so we should be as such, uncontainable, uncontrollable, undefinable. And so the more we sit with the breath, the more we start expanding our identity into that which is infinite, forever existing and unknowable, actually. And I found this extremely inspiring and poetic. So that's, the tantric are poets. And then they become lovers. Yeah. Thank you. The poetry of living.